Christian McCaffrey also not in attendance. And that is interesting because while we can say, oh, Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings aren't there because they are looking for new contracts. And then we can say, oh, Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa are there. They're setting a tone and being a good example, which is something that Christian McCaffrey always is. Maybe McCaffrey is taking the year off from OTAs because he's 28 now and doesn't think he needs them, or he's got his own workout routine that he's going out doing each day. But I think the question has to come up, is there a contract component to this?
So I hadn't really thought about this until I was watching Kyle Shanahan's press conference today, and one of the reporters asked him, is any of this contract related regarding Christian? And what Shanahan said was he's just kind of throwing this in the same bucket as all the other guys who aren't there. Just basically pointing out it's voluntary. And to be sure, McCaffrey is not one of those dudes that you're like, I need to see him at OTAs to know that he's going to be good. Like, he's definitely not that dude. But when you look at his contract, coming off a year where he had 2,000 scrimmage yards to lead the NFL, he led the NFL in scrimmage yards, touches, and he tied Raheem Mostert to lead the league with 21 touchdowns. And he did all that in 16 games, albeit like he missed the final game of the year, was it?
Mm-hmm.
He's making $12 million. He's making $12 million a year over the next two. And crazy. I understand that he's a running back, and running backs are typically devalued and have a hard time getting contracts. But if you're Christian McCaffrey, are you looking at it like, man, I don't know that I necessarily deserve Tyreek Hill money, but if you look at his numbers compared to Tyreek Hill, who some people, including us, had in like the MVP conversation, like, and Tyreek Hill's making $30 million a year. If you're Christian McCaffrey making 12, are you like, I kind of want to raise, and I kind of maybe want another couple years because this is probably my last bite at the apple? That is kind of interesting. And that could be something, I haven't heard anything, I don't know, but that could be something where it's like, wait, Christian McCaffrey's not here at the start of training camp? Like, what's going on? And then it's like, oh, Christian McCaffrey's holding out for a new contract.
Yeah.
Like, that wouldn't be surprising. And it would be a very interesting situation because, like, you're Christian McCaffrey. And again, I understand running backs are devalued, and there's all sorts of data that shows you don't pay running backs / they don't matter. Meanwhile, the leaders in scrimmage yards, in the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them were running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 6 of them were, Anyway, 5 or 6 of them were running backs. If you're Christian McCaffrey, would it be insane if you're just like, yeah, I'm coming off a 21 touchdown, 2,000 yard season, and I played in every damn game except for the one that we were resting after we clinched the 1 seed, and I won Offensive Player of the Year? Would it be absolutely insane for Christian McCaffrey to be like, I want $18 or $20 million for the next 2 years? Instead of 12?
No, I think in a vacuum as a running back, sure, given the market, but I think you can pretty easily pull up an article by Nick Wagner at ESPN.com and find the numbers of what the 49ers offense does when Christian McCaffrey is on the field and when he's not. I don't know for sure if Nick has written about this, but I'm just guessing. Anyways.
I know for certain that he has.
Okay, great. I thought it was in my brain, and then the more I started talking, the more I was like, I don't know if that's true. But anyways, it's stunning how much better the 49ers offense is when Christian McCaffrey is on the field than when he's off it. So that's why I don't think that like running backs aren't a monolith. It's not pay the running back or don't. It is your running back providing a service to your offense that not just any talented running back could provide? Or is it, hey, Christian McCaffrey is the focal point of everything San Francisco is doing offensively. He is the best pure runner they've had maybe ever. I don't know. I'm saying maybe. That's a hard caveat. If you think it's somebody else, fine. I'm not going to argue with you. But certainly under Kyle Shanahan, he's the best runner they've had. And he's definitely the best pass catcher they've had. And I mean, look at how many things open up in the passing game just by Christian McCaffrey floating out to the flat. How many? It feels like twice a game somebody does the all 22 cut up of like, hey, Kyle Juszczyk or Juwan Jennings was wide open here because the safety and 2 quarterbacks and a linebacker and a defensive end all followed Christian McCaffrey to the flat. So to me, I think if you're Christian McCaffrey, you're 100% asking for that kind of money. And if you're the 49ers, at this point, knowing what he means to your team, I don't know how you don't give it to him.
Yeah, and I do think the 49ers would be inclined to give it to him despite what the national sort of consensus conversation would be in that. Oh my God, that's so much money for running back. And like, look, people hated the Christian McCaffrey trade. I was skeptical about it too, mostly because of health concerns. Like, and it was clear to me that, you know, at the time I was like, this is going to be a successful trade if he's a pass catcher for you. And he's been a pass catcher for them. He caught 67 balls for 500 yards last year. And he's making $12 million in addition to the 272 rushing attempts, 14 touchdowns, 1,459 rushing yards last year. Like,
totally insane.
If you just want to compare him, so Tyreek Hill, I had his contract numbers up. Christian McCaffrey is 5.4% of the salary cap next year. Tyreek Hill is 12.26% of the salary cap with a $31 million cap hit. Right. And that's up on the screen right now for those of you watching on YouTube. Christian McCaffrey is 5.54, $14 million cap hit. I mean, Christian McCaffrey scored 7 more touchdowns, touched the ball almost 200 more times, and had 200 more yards than Tyreek Hill last year. And I totally understand the conversation of like devaluing running backs and you don't pay running backs. But there's an exception to every rule in the NFL.
1,000%.
Right? Like there are exceptions all over the place. And I think Christian McCaffrey is absolutely one of them. And if there's a guy that you're like, man, or if I'm McCaffrey, I'm like, hey, man, give me $40 million over the next 2 years. Like, bump me up from 24. Here are all my numbers compared to everyone else. Here's how valuable I am to you guys. Here's Nick Wagner's story on ESPN.com about what the offense looked like before I got there versus what it looks like with me here, and how I was statistically the best in-season addition in NFL history, and how important I've been to getting to the back-to-backs, or to getting to Super Bowls and carrying Brock Purdy. Like, I think we might be in for an interesting summer when it comes to Christian McCaffrey, and that hasn't been on really anybody's radar. So we'll see. And I think the 49ers would probably be inclined to pay him. But
I think so too.
I just think that, like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Christian McCaffrey is like none too thrilled about the idea of making $24 million over the next 2 years while being arguably the best skill position guy in the league right now.
So you say he's about $12 million a year for the next 2. I'm going to illustrate your argument another way. There are 26 wide receivers making more than $12 million a year right now. I'm going to name some of them. DeAndre Hopkins, who's 114 years old. Darnell Mooney, who is apparently a wide receiver in the NFL. Gabe Davis, who the Bills, who don't have any receivers, let him walk. They could have used him. Nope, making $13 million a year with the Jags. Tyler Lockett making 15. Cortland Sutton making 15. Jerry Jeudy, who got traded, making 17.5. Christian Kirk making 18. Deontay Johnson making 18.3. I don't think there's a single player there that anybody is taking over Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, you could probably say the same for a lot of the players above the Deontay Johnson tier. I cut it off at $20 million. But again, positional value does matter a little bit here. It's not in a vacuum. Players get paid based on their, like, the position matters at some point. So you don't want to get outrageous and start being like, yeah, $25 million a year for Christian McCaffrey, even though he might be quote unquote worth that. The positional market dictates that something like 18 or whatever would make him the highest paid running back. And I think that's what matters more than anything. Yeah.
And like, you cannot, one thing that's going to happen is I think a lot of the same people who said Brock Purdy was a product of his environment and completely carried by his skill position guys, those same people cannot say that Christian McCaffrey is not worth more than $12 million a year.
No. Right? Look, you know what's funny about this?
You can't be on both sides of that argument. you know what I mean?
That's right. The same people, I hadn't even thought about that. The same people who are like, yeah, actually Brock Purdy is not that good because of guys like Christian McCaffrey, are the same ones who wouldn't pay Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. And look,
that's crazy.
I get it. If I were a GM of the team, 99% of running backs, I would be like, yeah, kick rocks, dude. Like, go get paid somewhere else. I'm going to draft a dude in the 4th round every year and be fine. More likely than not, right? But this has been completely different. And since Christian McCaffrey came to the 49ers, like, it completely changed my viewpoint on this, because I was very much of the mind that, like, yeah, I'm not really into paying running backs because they are so replaceable, and there's not really a whole lot of difference in talent between a dude you draft in the 2nd round and a dude you draft in the 6th round. But with the way Christian McCaffrey catches the ball out of the backfield, the way he can just be extremely multiple and line up anywhere on the field, the way he runs the ball, like, this is a Hall of Fame type player. And the proof is in the pudding. Like, he's completely transformed the 49ers from a production standpoint, and he's basically been on the field for every single game. Like, he hasn't missed any time. And the big question I had coming in when the 49ers got him was like, man, this guy has some injury history. You know what? He hasn't missed any time. And he's like, I know his body.
He missed week 18 last year. Just to be fair, he had a calf thing.
Okay, he had a calf thing.
Or a knee thing, whatever it was.
Sure. But it was an inconsequential game.
Yeah, he has not missed, like, significant time.
He hasn't missed a playoff game. He hasn't missed, like, an important regular season game. He hasn't missed any time. So from that standpoint, I understand it's a risk, but it's a risk I'm willing to take because this dude is somebody who is like Nick Bosa in that he's a sociopath, workout freak, football junkie type dude who all he wants is to win football games. So, like, I am willing. 99% of running backs, I'm telling, no way am I giving you more money. But, like, Christian McCaffrey is, like, that rare dude who's proven it on the field, who's proven it just since he's been to the 49ers, really, like, since he's gotten there in every aspect, whether it's, you know, leadership, locker room leadership, setting a tone, coming into shape every year. Like, he's just that type of dude. And if I were him and I'm looking at, like, what I was last year, and I'm 2,000 scrimmage yards, 21 touchdowns, 339 touches, and there are 26 receivers who are making more money than I am, and I was offensive player of the year, I'd be like, man, just give me $40 million over the next 2 years. I'm not asking for a 6-year contract. Just give me some more money.
Yep. Yeah. I think he's in his right to do that. And if that is why, and we should say with all this, we don't know for sure that it's contract related with Christian McCaffrey. He might be perfectly fine playing under his current contract for the next couple of years and figuring it out then.
But he just has a really compelling case to be like, no, guys, I'm not showing up till you give me more money. Yeah,
so definitely file that away in the event that training camp gets here and Christian McCaffrey is not there. But he might be.
Would you be surprised at all if, like, one of the national reporters at some point over the next couple of weeks sends out the tweet, Christian McCaffrey is unhappy with his contract and will not be reporting to 49ers until he gets a new deal? Like, what would your scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super surprised, 1 being not surprised at all?
Surprise level be? That it happened, like 1, that it makes all the sense that he would want a new deal. But on the other hand, I would be pretty surprised that it got to the media like that. McCaffrey seems like the kind of guy, like, I think Ayuk has largely negotiated the same way. And again, we should also say, this is not like the players going, hey, I'm going to leak something to Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter. It's agents. Players are pretty separated from the process. At least from what I've understood. Ayuk's been mostly the same way. Like, there hasn't been a lot of public negotiating from Ayuk's side. No. And I would be pretty shocked if we saw it from Christian McCaffrey. But if he wanted a new contract, not a surprise.
I could also see it like mandatory mini camp happens in second or third week of June, whenever it is. Christian McCaffrey's not there. All the reporters are out there on the practice field. Christian McCaffrey's not there. And then it comes out, league source says Christian McCaffrey is unhappy with his contract situation.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all.
That's probably the more likely scenario. Like Christian doesn't leak it, but then it becomes a story once he's not on the field for the mandatory session.
Yeah.